Good morning, everyone. Welcome, commissioners, CDA staff, members of the public watching remotely. I'm Deborah Costa Hernandez, Chair of the Instructional Quality Commission, and I call this meeting to order. The IQC meeting logistics will follow Senate Bill 189, which allows state bodies that fall under the Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act to hold public meetings that are covered by Bagley-Keene with web conferencing and audio conferencing. Therefore, today's IQC meeting is a video conference meeting with a live webcast. Public comment on items on today's, Public comment on items on today's meeting agenda may be provided during the meeting by dialing 667-770-1236 and then following a prompt to provide a participant's access code. Callers will then be added to a queue. The operator will notify callers when it is their turn to provide public comment. If possible, we recommend members of the public dialing in for public comment to continue to view the live stream of the meeting for a better understanding of the meeting status. When it is your turn, please mute the live cast audio. When given public comment, please state the following. First, your name, your commenter's name and last name. 2, the organization affiliation, if any, and 3, then your public comment. Again, the phone number is 667-770-1236. The access code is 5691325. The phone number and access code will also be announced at the start of public comment for each item. This is also outlined in the November 16, 2022 IQC agenda posted on the IQC webpage. Now I will introduce each commissioner participating in today's meeting. When I call your name, please unmute your microphone and confirm your attendance, then mute your microphone again. Ready? Commissioner Cristina Andre.
Present.
Commissioner Mariana Astorga Almanza.
Present.
I'm present. Commissioner Deborah Costa Hernandez. Commissioner Anita Friedman. Commissioner Anita Friedman. Commissioner Lindsay Gotanda. Commissioner Lindsay Gotanda. Commissioner Cherise Guerra.
Present.
Commissioner Lily Jarvis.
Present.
Commissioner Neil McGaffey.
Present.
Commissioner David Pantai.
Present.
Commissioner Nikki Reina Guerra.
Present.
Commissioner Manuel Rustin.
Present.
Commissioner Pam Williamson.
Present.
Commissioner Marcy Winower.
Present.
Commissioner Kimberly Young.
Present.
Student
Recording
Commissioner
in progress.
Student Commissioner Mira Chacardeo.
Present.
Assembly Member James Ramos. Is Assembly Member James Ramos? Senator Ben Allen. I want to take a moment to recognize that today it is our student member Mira Chacardeo's first IQC meeting.
Press number.
Welcome, Mira. And we would also like to welcome, let's give her a virtual clap. Awesome. We would also like to welcome Board Member Lewis, who is joining us today, along with Board Vice President Glover Woods. I will now lead us in the salute to the flag. So ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We now have the administration of the oath of office to our new student member. I will turn the meeting over to Board Member Glover Woods to swear in Mira.
Thank you so very much, Chair Costa Hernandez. And hello, Mira. I am just pleased to be able to administer the oath of office to you. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Mira Chakradeo,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations, Commissioner Chakradeo. We welcome you to the Instructional Quality Commission.
Thank you.
Once again, thank you, Mira. And again, you're so welcome. We're so happy that you are here and part of this commission. Next, or would you like to say a few words, Mira?
Yes, I would love to. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm honored to be the representative for all of California's K through 12 public school students. I would like to thank the students, teachers, administrators, and educators who have supported me along this journey. I'm looking forward to working with my fellow commissioners and the CDE to accomplish the IQC's goals throughout my term.
And we're very excited to have you. Congratulations again. Next is an overview of the agenda. The agenda today remains unchanged and includes approval of the April 20th, 2022 IQC meeting minutes, approval of the revised 2023 IQC meeting dates. We're going to hear a presentation on the Arts, Music, and Instructional Materials Discretionary Block Grant, and then plan the new commissioner orientation for January 18th, 2023, and then hear an assessment update. At this time, I want to review some procedures regarding today's video conferencing meeting. During commissioner deliberation today, I will call on each commissioner by name. Only the commissioner who is speaking will have his or her microphone unmuted. All other microphones will be muted. Commissioners use the raise hand button if you, Commissioners, please use the raise hand button if you want to speak and make a comment. Wait until you're called upon to unmute your microphone and speak. All votes will be done by roll call. Next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. And so we're looking at the minutes for the April 20th, 2022. The public comment for this agenda is now open. Please follow the instructions on the screen if you would like to give public comment on the minutes. You have the minutes of the April 20th, 2022 IQC meeting before you. If you have substantive changes, please present them now. If there are minor changes not affecting the content, please email them to Denise Figueroa, our IQC liaison. Any public comment or changes? Do we have any public comment?
We do not.
Okay. Do I see no raised hands for changes? Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes? Commissioner Mariana Astorga. So I think it was, I didn't hear the motion.
Oh, I was on mute.
Sorry.
Like I haven't learned after all these years. I would like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the April 20th, 2022 meeting.
Thank you. So the motion has been made by Commissioner Mariana Astorga Almanza. And I see the hand for Commissioner Jarvis.
I second the motion.
Okay. The motion has been seconded by Commissioner Jarvis. Is there any discussion on the motion? No? Do I see, if I'm missing a hand, please let me know. Dr. Torres and Denise. Okay, thanks. Because I have, thank you. And then there were no public comment. Sorry, I did that out of order. My apologies. So I believe we're ready to vote. Denise, can you please conduct a roll call vote?
Absolutely. Chair Costa Hernandez,
Yes.
Vice Chair Reston,
Yes.
Commissioner Andre,
Yes.
Commissioner Astorga Almanza,
Yes.
Commissioner Guerra,
Yes.
Commissioner Jarvis,
Yes.
Commissioner McGaffey,
Yes.
Commissioner Pantai,
Yes.
Commissioner Reyna Guerra,
Yes.
Commissioner Williamson,
Yes.
Commissioner Winower,
Yes.
Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Student Commissioner Shakradu.
Here, yes, sorry.
The motion passes.
Thank you, Denise. The next item is my chair report, item 1F, my last chair report. So I can say, I'm going to focus on two things that are super important to me. So bear with me. I figure since it's my last chair report in my last IQC meeting, here we go. So though the IQC won't be revising the ELA-ELD framework this year, California continues to strive towards alignment and cohesion across efforts to support literacy instruction across the entire state. The state literacy plan was developed with funds from a federal comprehensive literacy state development grant in 2019. And the purpose of that state literacy plan, or SLP, is to align and integrate all state initiatives, content standards, and guidance documents related to literacy. The CDE team that oversees this grant presented to the IQC last April. There's also reading instruction and intervention grant in process, and funding to employ and train literacy coaches and reading specialists, and to develop and implement interventions for students needing targeted literacy support. These are only a few of the many initiatives, statewide, large-scale initiatives to support literacy instruction in California. Now, aligning efforts towards a coherent, evidence-based literacy instruction in California was already complicated before the pandemic. Now, we also have to figure out how to systematically and coherently respond to the gaps in reading and literacy development that occurred or were exacerbated due to the pandemic. And we have to figure out how to do that in ways that accelerate students' literacy development for all students, paying particular attention to those students who were disproportionately affected by the effects of the pandemic. I believe that the current ELA-ELD framework still offers great guidance. It's an amazing document that's still very, very viable and very useful. But when the time for updating the framework comes, I will look forward to how we will use the lessons learned from now to really guide the revisions of the ELA-ELD framework. And I'll be paying particular attention to discussions about equity in content and pedagogy for all students in California. Another big scale effort going on is the UTK, or Universal Transitional Kindergarten implementation. In 2021, California launched Universal Preschool by putting into action recommendations outlined in the California Master Plan for Early Learning and Care. At the heart of this is what has been called a dramatic expansion of transitional kindergarten for all 4-year-old children, with projected universal access to TK for all children by 25-26 school year. And then also expanding access to the California preschool program for income eligible 3-year-old children and children with disability. This is an amazing effort. When it comes to transitional kindergarten, we know that this is not just about adding a grade level to a school. There are important logistical matters like building infrastructure, staffing, enrollment, access to extended learning, community partnerships, etc. As districts continue to work through these logistical puzzles, increased attention is going to the instructional content of a high-quality TK program. And then the questions about equity and developmentally appropriate education are sounding louder and louder. A better understanding of the power of pre-K through third alignment and the central role of play and learning will benefit not just children in TK, but it will benefit all kids, especially those in elementary grades. I am very fortunate to be part of the 21st Century California State Leadership Academy, or 21 CSLA UTK team. And this is one effort among the many efforts that are going on as part of this constellation of services and initiatives. But we are developing professional learning for school leaders focused on the knowledge, skills, and dispositions necessary for equity-driven, high-quality transitional kindergarten programs. And just like efforts around literacy, I believe that this focus around the P3 alignment will have very important implications for every framework that will be revised and developed going forward. And I will be excited to follow the work of the IQC in the next cycle. That is my report. Next item is item 1G, the Deputy Superintendent's report.
Thank you so much. Good morning, commissioners, and a special welcome to Mira, our new student commissioner. I'm Cheryl Cotton, Deputy Superintendent in the Instruction, Measurement, and Administration branch at the California Department of Education. I cannot believe I haven't seen the IQC since April. After this long break, I'd like to welcome back to this important space where we welcome you back to this important space where we can continue the work of supporting educators and students in the various challenges we face statewide. Given all that we've learned and continue to learn about our students, both through distance learning and the COVID-19 pandemic these past 2 years, I'm pleased to note the California Legislature's 2022-23 budget. It reinforces the state's strong fiscal standing. The 2022-23 budget package fully funds and enhances programs established in the 2021-22 budget package. All told, the overall funding, federal, state, and local, for all TK through 12 education programs is about $128.6 billion, with a per pupil spending rate of $22,893 in 22-23. That's amazing. In the realm of instructional materials, the 2022-23 budget package includes 2 large block grants. First, the Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant is a $7.9 billion in one-time funding to support LEAs creating learning recovery initiatives through the 2027-28 school year. These funds may be used for increased instructional time, closing learning gaps, pupil supports to address barriers to learning, expanded instruction opportunities, and academic services. Second, there's the Arts, Music, and Instructional Materials Discretionary Block Grant, which allocates $3.6 billion in one-time funding through the 25-26 school year. These funds focus on professional development, acquiring instructional materials, improving school climate, developing diverse book collections with culturally relevant texts, operational costs, and costs related to COVID-19. You'll hear more about this block grant from CFERD staff later in this meeting. The work of the IQC continues, but know that the instructional resources and professional learning, when considered alongside the additional funding, can ensure that we provide local educational agencies with support for important decisions around the use of these funds and others as they plan for the future. I want to thank you again for your dedication to education and to the students of California and your time, and look forward to seeing you and your work develop. Now back to Chair Costa Hernandez.
Thank you so much for those remarks, Deputy Superintendent Cotton. The next item on the agenda is 1H, and we have a report from the Executive Director, Torres.
Thank you so much, Chair Costa Hernandez, and good morning, Commissioners, State Board of Education members Glover Woods and Lewis, Deputy Superintendent Cotton, CFERD staff, and those members of the public who are joining us today. I want to begin with an acknowledgement of this land in an effort to always remember that we are guests of this land and must do our best to never forget its original inhabitants and caretakers, the Native people. Our department headquarters and the location from where I'm joining this meeting today are on Nisenan land. I also want to take a moment for some welcomes and introductions. Mira, it was a pleasure to have witnessed your oath of office, and welcome to the Commission as our new student member. Also, welcome to the State Board of Education Board Member Lewis, who is joining us alongside Board Member Glover Woods as State Board liaisons to the IQC. We also have several new CDE staff who have joined CFERD either as new to the CDE or promoted to a new role since we last met in April. We have 3 new administrators and 1 new consultant who I'm happy to introduce you to. Jennifer Bentley has been promoted to the administrator of the Instructional Resources Unit. She's been our longtime science and health consultant extraordinaire and has effectively taken over as administrator of the office since May. She's been preparing her office for the upcoming mathematics instructional materials adoption and managing the arts, music, and instructional materials discretionary block grant that you'll hear more about today. Jen, would you like to say a few words?
Sure. I just want to say that I am excited to continue my work with this wonderful group in my new role as administrator, and feel free to send me any questions you may have.
Thanks so much, Jen. The next staff member I'd like to introduce you to is Hamed Razawi, who started in June as the administrator of the Clearinghouse for Specialized Media and Technology within CFERD. Hamed has settled into his new role very nicely and has been overseeing the work of the California Dyslexia Initiative and busily spreading the word about the important accessibility work that his office conducts for students with disabilities throughout the state. Hamed, would you like to share a few words? We may have lost Hamed, or is he on mute? All right, so I'm sure Hamed would have, if he doesn't have technology issues, would have said hello and hello to you, commissioners. So I'm going to move on. Another amazing CFERD leader is Dr. Marla Clayton Johnson, who's been responsible for the Curriculum Frameworks Unit since September. She's jumped right into the world of the mathematics framework and developed and is in development of our 4 new AB 167 model curricula. Marla, would you like to say a few words?
I would. Thank you, Dr. Torres. Happy first day, Mira. And I really look forward to supporting and partnering with this group doing this good work. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Dr. Clayton Johnson. And I see Hamed is back online. Would you like to say a few words?
Thank you, Dr. Torres. I, just like Marla, we are part of the Superintendent's Chronic Absenteeism Conference, or workforce, I should say. So we're moving between the two, but thank you so much. It's an honor to be part of this wonderful group here. I have been with CDE for about 10 years. My anniversary is coming up, and prior to that, I was a public school employee served in public school education for over 20 years. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much, Hamed, and I truly appreciate you multitasking right now, jumping from one meeting to the other. Finally, I'd like to introduce you to our newest consultant, Carrie Marovich. Carrie has a world of rich experiences in history, social science, professional writing, and legislative work. We've already benefited from her organization and her expertise as she's planned and implemented the interdepartmental webinars for the Arts, Music, and Instructional Materials Discretionary Block Grant. Carrie, would you like to say a few words? And I think you're on mute.
There we go. Sorry about that. Thank you very much, Dr. Torres. And I just want to say that I'm so excited to be here. I'm coming straight from the classroom and excited about taking what I know from there and mixing it with all the things that I'm learning here in the department. I'm real happy to be with Seaford, and I'm excited to be working with all of you on IQC.
Thanks so much, Carrie. So commissioners, as you can see, we've been very busy building our staff capacity to support the work of the State Superintendent of Public Instruction, the work of the Instructional Quality Commission, and the work of the State Board of Education. As you know, the work of the Commission is bound to the state budget and direction from the State Board of Education. The department stands prepared to move the work of the Commission forward through the mathematics framework and subsequent instructional materials adoption and beyond that. I'd like to conclude with some information on the Arts, Music, and Instructional Materials Discretionary Block Grant, and even more recently, the Arts and Music in Schools Act. You'll recall the Arts Education Framework was adopted by the State Board of Education in 2020, and the Arts Education Instructional Materials Adoption took place last year, as several of you participated as facilitators and generated the reports to the State Board. Each curriculum framework journeys out to the LEAs and takes on new life as it is implemented in a diverse array of local contexts. Now, since the adoption, the department has been collaborating with the California Arts Project and the California County Superintendent's Arts Initiative, formerly known as CSESA, to do a virtual rollout of the Arts Education Framework and to create a suite of resources to assist LEAs with standards and framework implementation. I'm happy to share that this collaboration continues, and arts education has recently received a huge boost with the legislature passed Arts, Music, and Instructional Materials Discretionary Block Grant. And even more exciting, just this week, or last week, the voters passed Proposition 28, which adds the Arts and Music in Schools Funding Guarantee and Accountability Act to the California Education Code. The Arts and Music in Schools Act helps ensure that the art standards and curriculum framework that the Instructional Quality Commission has spent so many hours on will be fully implemented in our schools across the state. And the key values embedded in the standards and framework, which are access and equity to arts education for all students, can become a reality. Thanks again to the IQC, who worked hard to ensure that these values remained a priority. Thank you so much for your time and attention during this report. And now I hand the floor back to Chair Costa Hernandez.
Thank you, Dr. Torres, for that report. Now it is my pleasure to introduce State Board of Education liaisons Cynthia Glover-Woods and Brenda Lewis to give us a report on the activities of the State Board, which is item 1.I. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Costa Hernandez, and good morning, commissioners and any members of the public who may be viewing today's meeting. Just quite excited to be with you, even if it's virtually, along with my colleague, Brenda Lewis, member of the State Board of Education, who you'll get an opportunity to hear from in just a few moments. I wanted to share that Member Lewis did join the State Board of Education February of this year. And again, we've been working very closely to support the actions and the priorities of the State Board of Education. And I'm going to pause for just a moment to ask Member Lewis if she would like to share any words of greetings and any additional words with the Commission today.
Thank you, Dr. Glover Woods, and good morning, everyone. I would just like to make a few brief comments just to say that I'm honored to join you and my SBE colleague, Dr. Glover Woods, as one of the SBE liaisons, and I look forward to the work of the Commission, and I just want to thank you all in advance for your individual and collective contributions to the work of the Commission, and just honored to join you. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Lewis. I just have a few brief comments. I have some things to share with you. We have some new members coming on in various areas. I'd like to share with you who they are, and then just give you a quick update on the last State Board of Education meeting that took place earlier this month and ways we're looking forward. So first, I'd like to again recognize and welcome our newest commissioner, Mira. Welcome once again. We're so pleased that you've joined the Commission, and we look forward really to you sharing your insights. You bring a valuable lens to this work from a student perspective, and we really are looking forward to hearing your voice, hearing your feedback as the Commission moves forward with the work related to frameworks and instructional materials. Also in January, we welcomed 5 new IQC members who were selected through a very competitive process this fall. They were confirmed at the November State Board of Education meeting and will be joining you in 2023. The newest members to the Commission are Janet Lanning. She's a kindergarten teacher in Fillmore Unified School District. Alicia Regosa, who is a teacher on special assignment in Mountain View School District. Erica Cepeda, who is a teacher on special assignment program specialist in San Bernardino City Unified School District. And Jennifer Hicks, who serves as the Assistant Superintendent for Placer County Office of Education. In addition to those new members, we will welcome a 5th new member, and we will be going through the recruitment and appointment process in January. That newest member will be appointed in January at the State Board of Education meeting. We also will have a new student member that will be joining us in September 2023. His name is Ethan Chen, and he is a student at Monta Vista High School in Danville. Quite a delightful young man, and again, will bring a very valuable voice to the work of the Instructional Quality Commission. Finally, I know we have some members who will be leaving the IQC who I'm just sad to see go. I'm going to save my comments because I know we will be having an opportunity to recognize them for their service towards the end of the meeting. So I will save my comments and put my tissue to the side just as we get ready to say goodbye to just some very valiant educators who've contributed their time and effort to the work of the IQC. Moving on with new additions, we also have 2 new State Board of Education members that have joined since your last IQC meeting. We welcome our newest student member, Naomi Porter. Naomi is a student at Palos Verdes Peninsula High School. She's quite ambitious and accomplished. She's involved with many activities, as are a lot of our young people these days. She's the founder of a nonprofit and executive director of that nonprofit that is titled Entrepreneurship. And it's an organization that's focused on removing financial and educational barriers for youth interested in going into entrepreneurship, financial literacy, and change making. She's also a student advisor to the Los Angeles County Office of Education. We also welcomed another new member, Allison Yoshimoto Towery, the executive director of the UC-CSU California Collaborative for Neurodiversity and Learning. She's also the former chief academic officer for Los Angeles Unified School District. So again, welcome to all of those who have come on board and all of those who will come on board in 2023. Everyone will continue, our newest members will continue the work that has been started as we continue to move forward. Just very brief comments on the last State Board of Education meeting. I'll share with you what took place in September. We did approve several items. And in addition to, actually, this was in our November meeting, in addition to the appointments that I just shared with you, we also approved the Regional Technical Assistance Centers contract awardees that will support the Community Schools Partnership Program that has started. And they will be working collaboratively with those schools that will be modeling and have received grants for community schools, as well as the State Technical Assistance Center. Also, the State Board of Education took action to approve a set of dashboard principles. And the principles were drafted and received a lot of feedback from many stakeholders to ensure that the principles serve kind of as that guiding light, if you will, for the work that will go forward. And we are also ensuring that those principles are aligned to our philosophy of continuous improvement, which means that each year we'll take a look at the principles, make any necessary adjustments. But most importantly, what we will see going forward in 2023 is ongoing discussion that will help us shape future actions to be sure that our accountability system does serve and point to the needs of the multiple student groups that we serve in the state of California, as well as providing valuable data and information to the local educational agencies that support those children. Lastly, I'd like to share one of the things that are near and dear to this particular commission and definite priority for the State Board of Education is around the mathematics framework. As you know, it's currently undergoing revisions in response to the second public comment period that took place in May. And we look forward to seeing a final draft in either March or May of 2023. So there's a lot of work ahead of us. And as I get ready to close, I do want to say we want to keep our eyes going forward at this point. We don't want to minimize at all what has been experienced as a result of the pandemic and the experiences that have taken place the last couple of years. It's really shaped our educational context. We have lessons we have learned. We also know that where our students are now is where we need to support them from. To continue to look back on what happened prior to, I don't believe serves us very well. We can look at the data we have, we can almost look at it as baseline data for our students and continue to look at how we can best meet the academic, social, emotional, and mental health needs of our students in the spaces where they are now, with our eyes moving forward to a bright future of success for all of them. So Chair Acosta-Hernandez, thank you so very much for letting me give you that very, very long report. I promise our next meetings won't have such a long report. And again, commissioners, thank you so much for enduring that report.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, board members Glover Woods and Lewis, for that report. It wasn't long, it was comprehensive, and I loved to hear all of the great work that it's going on at the State Board of Education. And I take your comments at the end to heart, that this is a time to look forward and really build from where we are right now. So thank you. Thank you so much for that. Next item on the agenda is item 1J, which is to approve the revised 2023 IQC meeting dates. The public comment for this agenda item is now open. Please follow the instructions on the screen if you would like to speak. I will now turn it over to Executive Director Torres.
Thank you again, Chair Acosta-Hernandez. Hello, Commissioners. As you heard from Member Glover Woods, this is the time of year that the CDE and the State Board of Education screens and interviews candidates to join the Commission in January. And as you heard, we have 4 new members and 1 student member who were essentially appointed at the November State Board of Education meeting. The screening committee will need to reconvene and recommend a 5th candidate who may be appointed to the Commission at the State Board of Education's January 19 through 20 meeting. Now, this item includes a proposal to move the IQC meeting that's currently scheduled for January 18 to 19. Not only because it conflicts with the State Board of Education meeting, but also to accommodate the new commissioner who may be appointed at the State Board of Education's January meeting. So for these reasons, the new proposed date for the January IQC meeting and orientation is January 25 to 26. Back to you, Chair Cosa Hernandez.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on the revised 2023 IQC meeting dates? Please forgive me, I'm looking for hands. Dr. Torres or Denise, do you see any hands up?
No hands at this time.
Okay. So if no discussion, then I need a motion to approve the revised 2023 IQC meeting dates. I see a hand. Yes, Commissioner Williamson.
I move to approve the revised 23 meeting dates for the IQC.
Thank you. Commissioner Williamson has moved, and do I have a second? Commissioner Young?
I second.
Thank you. So Commissioner Williamson has moved and Commissioner Young has seconded the motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, is there any public comment, Denise?
There is not.
So the public comment line for this item is now closed. I believe we're ready to vote. Denise, would you please do the roll call?
Chair Costa Hernandez?
Yes.
Vice Chair Rustin?
Yes.
Commissioner Andre?
Yes.
Commissioner Stargall Almanza? Has she left already? Okay. Commissioner Guerra?
Yes.
Commissioner Jarvis?
Yes.
Commissioner McGaffey?
Yes.
Commissioner Pantai?
Yes.
Commissioner Reyna Guerra?
Yes.
Commissioner Williamson?
Yes.
Commissioner Winnower?
Yes.
Commissioner Young?
Yes.
Student Commissioner Chakradu?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you, Denise. The next item is 1K, Arts, Music, and Instructional Materials Discretionary Block Grant Presentation. Public comment for this agenda item is now open. Please follow the instructions on the screen if you would like to speak, and I will now turn it over to Executive Director Torres for this report.
Thank you so much. Throughout the opening of this meeting, you've heard us talk about the Arts, Music, and Instructional Materials Discretionary Block Grant from several of us. This piece of legislation was established in this year's Education Omnibus Budget Trailer Bill, which was amended by AB 185, Section 56. On the next slide, you'll see that the Arts, Music, and Instructional Materials Discretionary Block Grant is a block grant of $3.6 billion. That's billion with a B. This money can be spent by a local educational agency or LEA for the purchase of professional development or instructional materials in a variety of content areas. And that includes visual and performing arts, world languages, mathematics, science, English language arts, including early literacy, ethnic studies, financial literacy, computer literacy, and media literacy. You'll notice that the word discretionary is in the block grant title. So there are other broad areas that the money can be spent on. The funds can be spent on instructional materials or professional development on improving school culture. And that includes training on de-escalation and restorative justice strategies, asset-based pedagogies, anti-bias, social emotional learning, media literacy, digital literacy, physical education, including learning through play. Thirdly, schools can use the money to develop diverse book collections and obtain culturally relevant texts in both English and the pupils' home languages. And that's in an effort to support independent reading. Finally, LEAs may use the money for operational costs, including retirement and healthcare costs, as well as obtaining COVID personal protective equipment for school staff, or upgrades to ventilation systems. Now, with all of that established, I'm going to hand the presentation over to Jennifer Bentley to dive into the grant in a bit more detail. Jen, take it away.
Hey, thank you, Mike. So yeah, my name is Jennifer Bentley, and I am the administrator for the Instructional Resources Unit. This block grant also allows apportioned funds to be used for the creation or maintenance of arts and music programs. LEAs are encouraged, but not required, to proportionally use resources received for the previously discussed instructional resources and professional development, as well as supporting arts and music education programs. The categorical allocations and audit resolution, or the CAR office within CDE's School Fiscal Services Division, will be handling the allocation and apportionment of funds for the arts, music, and instructional materials discretionary block grant. So this slide and the next will provide some of the key fiscal details, and I'll touch briefly on each item. Eligible entities identified in statute include county offices of education, school districts, charter schools, and state special schools. And this program is formula driven, and there is no application required in order to receive the funds. The CAR office will calculate proportional funding for each eligible entity based on the prior year average daily attendance, or ADA. More specifically, it is the reported ADA as of the 2021-22 second principal apportionment, and that's multiplied by a calculated funding rate of approximately $666.08 per unit of ADA. The amount calculated for each entity is referred to as its allocation, and these amounts have been posted to the fiscal website. The apportionments or payments will be released to eligible entities in 2 equal payments. The CAR office is planning for the first payment to occur in December of 2022, and the second payment to happen in May 2023. Funds received are available for encumbrance through June 30th, 2026. Any amounts that are not encumbered by this date will be returned to the CDE. For accounting purposes, local educational agencies will use the Standard Account Code Structure, or SACS, resource code 6762. If you have any questions regarding the calculation or apportionment of funds, please contact the CAR office at the email address on the screen. The funds received by each LEA can only be expended after being discussed and approved at a regularly scheduled public meeting of their governing board or body. It is the intent of the legislature for LEAs to expend these funds in a manner consistent with their governing board or locally approved plan, for example, the LCAP. There are a lot of resources available on CFIRD's website to provide guidance on this block grant. CFIRD conducted 2 guidance webinars for the field. One was an overall informational webinar, and the second webinar delved deeper into what kind of instructional resources and professional development opportunities CDE has available. Many webinars specific to each content area are included in the block grant will also be available, as well as these guidance and information pertaining to all other categories and parts of the grant. That information is found at the web address on your screen. And also, CDE is currently offering many professional learning opportunities through its Educator Excellence and Equity Division, and that falls under the expenditure rules of this grant. The link here is a good place to start your search. CFIRD may also be contacted for programmatic questions at the email address located on your screen. So with that, I'm ready to take any questions if there are any. And if not, thank you very much for your time.
I see the hand up. Thank you, Jennifer. I see Commissioner Guerra has her hand up. Commissioner Guerra.
Hi, Ms. Bentley. Thank you for such a comprehensive overview of this particular grant. My question is related to bilingual materials. I'm not sure if there was any language in either the grant itself or any guidance around culturally diverse books, also including bilingual books being added to classrooms and schools?
Yeah, so there's no language in the statute that says you cannot spend the money on bilingual books. So it would be up to the local educational agency to put it in their plan and bring it forward to their governing body for approval.
And I have one more question, or one more, I guess it's not really a question, more of a statement. And so I am working with the California Reading Association to put together some book lists. And I'm not sure how maybe book lists are being provided to schools and districts for that culturally relevant component, especially because so many great books and authors are published every year, and having a really good vetting process for high quality books is always important.
Yeah, so as part of the second webinar that CFER did, there's a large discussion about the diverse book collections and resources to use. There will also be a mini webinar posted on specifically the diverse book collections and lists of books and how to go through vetting them at the local level. So I would really encourage people to check those resources out on our website.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Commissioner McGaffey, I'm sorry, was there, Dr. Torres, you wanted to
Sorry, I need to get better about raising my hand. I just wanted to add a little bit to the response that Jen gave for Commissioner Guerra on the diverse book collection. So the statute specifically says that it's through the establishment of site-based school and classroom libraries that are culturally relevant to pupils' home and community experiences and be available in English, pupils' home language, or a combination of more than one language. So most definitely.
Thank you for that elaboration. I see Commissioner McGaffey and then Commissioner Jarvis.
Thank you. I appreciate the report. You mentioned that my question is regarding use of the funds. One item mentioned was for retirement and healthcare costs that have increased. But you also mentioned maintenance of the arts and music program. Does that maintenance of the arts and music program include using the funds for the salaries of an art teacher or music teacher?
So the language in the statute on this is vague. Really what our legal team is encouraging LEAs to do is to create their plan with what they would like to spend the money on, vet it through their own legal team, and then bring it before their governing body for approval. And if it's approved by their governing body, then according to the language of the statute, they are able to spend the money on that.
Commissioner Jarvis?
Yeah, I think my question is very similar to Commissioner McGaffey's. My question was about with this idea of creating and expanding our music and art programs, could some of this money used to support salaries for a coordinator or something like that?
Yeah, again, we would just say, write up your plan for how you would like to spend the money and vet it through your legal team and then take it before your board. And if they agree, that the statute just requires your governing board to agree to the spending plan. And that's really the extent of what the statute says.
Thank you.
Sure.
Are there any other questions? I just might make sure that I'm not missing any hands. Dr. Torres, do you see any hands up, or Denise, that I haven't addressed?
I do not see any hands, but I did want to take the opportunity now that I'm unmuted to basically share out one of the reasons why we're sharing the information about this to the IQC is it's a tremendous opportunity. It's a large sum of funds being sent out to local educational agencies. And I think it's very fitting to share this with the IQC because of the instructional materials piece, because of the professional development, and because the intent of the legislature for arts and music. And although it's discretionary and although there are other categories that the funds can be spent on, it still is the intent of the legislature that it do go towards arts and music, and it can be used for instructional materials. And as the IQC, you can take that message back with you to your local settings and be able to share and continue to disseminate that information and that emphasis for this block grant. And I'll stop talking now and hand it back over to Chair Costa Hernandez.
You don't need to stop talking. No, I appreciate that, because I was just going to add the same, is that we have a responsibility to communicate that though there's a lot of flexibility embedded in the way the funds have been made available to things, arts are core subjects. Art education is core subject, just as core as literacy and math. And the second part is that that we have a responsibility, right? That to make sure that there is that level of support and implementation of the arts framework. And so we can communicate that back to our constituencies and our friends and family, like make sure that we have arts because we have the funds. If that was the challenge before, is no longer the challenge. So thank you so much for that presentation. Denise, is there any public comment on this item?
There is no public comment.
Thank you. So I think no public comment, meaning that we close the line right now for public comment on this item, right? Okay. So the next item is 1L, is planning the January, which is no longer the 18th, right? Is now what was the new date?
25-26.
The 25-26. So planning the January 25-26 new commissioner orientation. The public comment for this agenda item is now open. Please follow the instructions on the screen if you would like to speak. And so part of the plan for the January new commissioner orientation, this 2023 orientation will be virtual as it has been in the last 2 years. As a result of the orientation, we want commissioners to understand your role, their role and responsibilities as a commissioner, rules of engagement, how to effectively represent your constituents, and the process and procedures for the IQC. In 2020, we did a virtual escape room with various activities done in breakout rooms. Last year, we did a majority group session with 2 small group activities being done in breakout sessions. Having breakout sessions is a fun and effective way to break up an all-day presentation and has been well received. You all have been sent the 2023 orientation draft agenda. I'd like to open the floor for discussion on what worked in previous years, what we would like to see in this upcoming orientation, especially in the light of this being a virtual meeting requirement. So it's open now for discussion, and I would like to make sure that I see hands.
Commissioner Young has her hand up.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Young.
Thank you. One thing that I really enjoyed about this year's orientation was our ability to go into smaller breakout rooms and have discussions, getting to know each other in a little bit of a different setting. I know perhaps it's a little bit challenging with all of the tech that goes behind it, but definitely those kind of conversations that were happening in the small breakout rooms really kind of facilitated some relationships moving forward between the commissioners, and I would love to see that also continue.
Thank you, Commissioner Young. Do I see any other hands? Any more suggestions of what worked in the past, or maybe new ideas? I can add that having the opportunity to hear from commissioners who have done it before, their best advice was so helpful when I was a new commissioner. And though half of it didn't make sense at the time, it made sense later. And I also knew who to go to if I had questions. So that was very helpful. So having an opportunity to share those words of wisdom at some point was very helpful as well. Any other discussion? Yes, Commissioner Pantai.
Yes, for me, I'd like to, I know that this is my last year, but what has helped me was the learning the processes in regards to updating frameworks and all of the different criterias and the steps involved, from public comments to the curriculum framework committees reviewing it. That whole entire process of what gets done and where the process was really helpful to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I would encourage in the future, in January, that you could review that maybe as a lesson or activity.
Thank you. I would agree with that as well. Commissioner Jarvis?
You know what I think might be helpful is to not only give them a sense of the sequence of things, but also the scope of the work. Like when one participates in the summer project where you're looking at the instructional materials for adoptions, or if you participate in other things, what that might look like, what the commitment of time might look like, and when we can anticipate those projects coming up. I think that for planning for summer and things like that, it might be helpful for them to know, so that one, they can plan accordingly and not miss on any exciting opportunities to be part of this work.
Thank you. Yes, thank you for that suggestion. Any more discussion? Well, I can confess that when I first joined and I was offered the opportunity to join the different committees, I wasn't sure I understood what I was signing up for in terms of the role that I wanted to take and what that process was going to look like. So the first time around for me was, okay, this is what I would like to focus on, but the ranking and how and what role you wanted to have, that was a mystery that I discovered the next day when we were going through the process. So maybe I think at that point, what would have been helpful was to walk through the entire process of how one selects the committee that would like to be part of, and then what happens the following day in terms of how people are allocated, for lack of a better word, how are selected for the different committees, and then within the committee, how their role is determined. Yes, Commissioner Reina Guerra.
I just want to piggyback on what everyone said, and thank you, Chair Costa Hernandez. I really appreciated hearing about the protocols and the processes, and then Commissioner Jarvis, the timelines and what each group is doing was really helpful to me. And I also didn't get to participate in the virtual there was some fun activity in 2020 I remember reading about, so that would be fun too. So it's fun to do some, team building activities as well, because I see all of our colleagues here and would love to get to know people a little bit more as well.
Thank you. Yes. Yes, Commissioner Guerra.
I just want to add on to what Commissioner Reina Guerra just said about the team building. Those of us that came on January of this year really have not had an opportunity for much interaction because we haven't had as many meetings, I think, or even as much involved in the process of either looking at a framework or materials. So it's going to be interesting as we all come in. I'm almost feeling like this January is going to feel like brand new still for me. So I'm really excited to get a refresh, because just like you said, the first time it's kind of a blur. So I'm excited to participate again and really know what's happening. So thank you for the people who've actually put the agenda together and really the thoughtfulness that has gone behind it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Any additional comments or suggestions or questions for the team putting together? Yes, Commissioner Winower.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to also add that having a mentor commissioner was really helpful to me. And thank you, Commissioner Pantai, for being mine. So I hope that will stay in place for the new commissioners.
Thank you very much. Yes. I see Commissioner Shakradeo.
Yes, I just wanted to say when I attended January's orientation, it was very comprehensive and very helpful. I also wanted to echo that I appreciated having a mentor commissioner. Mine was last school year's student commissioner. And it was just very helpful to see the work of the IQC and just learn more about the role. So I really enjoyed last year's new commissioner orientation, and I'm looking forward to January's.
Thank you so much. Any additional comments, suggestions?
I just wanted to take a moment to just pose the question. Over the past several years now, with the plethora of virtual meetings that as a state that we've participated in, I'm wondering if any of you have had any virtual team building style activities that you particularly enjoyed and found very helpful in being able to access and retain the information that was presented.
Are you asking specifically for team building activities or structures for the how to share the content of the different parts of the meeting?
Either or.
Okay.
Yeah, either of those would be great.
Yes, Commissioner Shakradeo.
Sometimes in school we have classroom-wide Kahoots, or there's this website called Quizzes, and there's these online kind of quiz things where there's one screen projected and everyone on their device gets to answer the questions live. And I always, it's a fun way, I remember in class, to learn material. And I think that would be a fun way to also reinforce the information we learn about being a commissioner. Yeah.
Great idea. Thank you. Any other suggestions? I think that the only thing I would maybe add is that having been to about 2,000 virtual meetings now, and many of them that include inclusion activities or icebreakers, I now have begun to appreciate those inclusion activities or icebreakers that focus on the human side of people who are there, that are not necessarily just to begin the process of, the content, but to learn about each other for a little bit, because that is the part that we miss. As I was thinking about the 3 years in the IQC, that the part that we miss from walking by each other during the breaks and talking to each other during lunch. And those pieces are the human connection pieces that are very difficult to replicate and do when we are doing it in Zoom. And we don't want to have an all-day meeting, right? So if to the extent possible to insert in the orientation opportunities for the commissioners to learn about each other as people, because they will be learning about each other professionally for the rest of their work at the IQC. And I see a hand, Commissioner Reina Guerra.
I really appreciated an activity in an EL Rise program that we did where we shared the story of our names. So to kind of go along with what you're saying, Chair Costa Hernandez, it helped us get to know each other, but also to remember each other's names. So there was a more personal, we had a more personal experience with each of the members. And so I really appreciated that. And I appreciated there was a lot of cultural meaning also to names, which I thought was a really nice part of it as well. And so that really helped me because I can meet someone and learn their name and then 2 seconds later not have it. But I still remember the people from that meeting.
Thank you so much for that. Commissioner Young?
Yeah, thank you. I was thinking two things. One, I experienced a collective resume that you build in small groups, small breakout rooms, as a way to kind of get to know each other's professional backgrounds, but collectively, what do you as a group kind of bring to the larger group? That was a really fun activity to be able to get to know each other, that professional side of our career paths at least. And then also thinking about utilizing collaging or Jamboard or other ways in which to kind of bring some levity to information sometimes that can feel a little bit, a little more formal, I think is a really good way to go back and forth between like learning processes and kind of seeing timelines and whatnot, and also being able to have different images and just use the other parts of our brains as well.
Thank you. Any additional comments or suggestions? Dr. Torres, what do you think? I think you have a good menu of options.
I think so. This has been a fantastic conversation and good discussion on what kinds of good practices we may be able to implement in the January IQC meeting orientation. Always focus, and I know it's a lot of information to gather and to take in, and to be able to do so in just such a short amount of time, and then virtually at that, can definitely be overwhelming. And so we appreciate the collective experiences and feedback from the commissioners on what's worked for either IQC or any other situation. And we'll definitely be taking those into consideration when planning the orientation.
Thank you. Are we ready to move on to public comment on this item? Denise, is there any public comment?
There is not.
No comments? Then we're ready to move on. So at this point, Dr. Torres, should we move on to acknowledgments, or are we moving the assessment item up?
I think we are ready for the assessment item.
Okay, so let me move down assessment. So you are introducing this part. I will turn it back over, or actually I will leave it with the Executive Director Torres for this item. This is item N.
Thank you so much, Chair Costa Hernandez. So some of the emphasis of this meeting has been on some of the momentous initiatives that are currently being implemented for instructional materials across multiple content areas in our state. One area that LEAs may look to in order to determine the best use of their funding may be to look at statewide testing results, which have recently been released by the Assessment, Development, and Administration Division, also referred to as ADAD, here at the Department of Education. Dr. Mel Vang, the director of ADAD, has graciously accepted our request for a presentation on our statewide assessments and their very recent data release. Thank you, Dr. Vang, for being here to present. And at this time, I yield the floor to you and your presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Torres. I appreciate being here. Chair Costa Hernandez and commissioners, thank you for inviting me to your meeting and sharing our statewide assessment results. At this time, I will share my presentation and go from there. Let me just move that up so it's easier to look at everything. Again, let me see, let's move this down to, excuse my technical adjustments here. So I will cover the 2021-22 statewide assessment results, just provide a quick overview for you. And to begin with, I'd like to just give you a quick background on federal requirements on our assessments. The Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESSA, in sections 111B2, it states the requirements that states must annually administer academic assessments in reading, language arts, and mathematics to students in grades 3 through 8 and once in high school, and science to students in grades 3 through 5, 6 through 8, and 10 through 12, at least once in each of those grade spans. And then have alternate assessments that are aligned with alternate academic achievement standards for students with the most significant cognitive disabilities in those same academic assessments in English, language arts, reading, language arts, math, and science. And then also administer assessments of English language proficiencies to eligible students in grades in kindergarten through grade 12. In our state requirements, to address those federal requirements, our state requirements, we have the CASP, or the California Assessment of Student Performance in Progress. It is defined in Education Code Section 60601 or 60601 through 60649. And it includes these the following assessments. We have the Smarter Balanced Summative Assessments to meet the English language arts or literacy and mathematics requirements. And we also develop our own California Science Test, which is aligned to our California Next Generation Science Standards. We have the California Alternate Assessments for the English language arts, mathematics, and science. And then we have our California Spanish Assessment for the Spanish reading language arts. It's an optional test, but it's a language other than English that we have identified to provide. And then we also have the English language assessments. I'm sorry, I forgot the P here. English language proficiency assessments for California. That's the LPAC. I will correct that. And then as we do have that defined in our education code sections 313 and 60810. And we have the initial LPAC, the summative LPAC, and then most recently, the initial and summative alternate LPACs for this particular requirement. With that, I will share the public release of the 2021-22 CASP and LPAC test results. Let me see, one of the things I wanted to share was that, as a background, is that in the 21-22 results were released on October 24th, and then we only have one small assessment, the California Alternate Assessment for Science, that is still in the works, so it will be released later in December, so it wasn't covered in that release. But as background, the 22 assessment administration is really the first time, or it's the return to full statewide administration as a result or as an impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. So since 2019, this is the first year that we were able to return to full administration. So just to recap a little bit, that in the 2019-2020 school year, many districts have to pivot after the discovery of the COVID-19 virus in California. And then the U.S. Department of Ed did waive all testing that year, or suspended all testing as well. And then in the 2021-22, to further prevent that spread of the virus, before the development of those development and as well as widespread distribution of vaccines, most students were continuing in 2020-21 in learning from home or distance learning. And during that year, our local educational agencies that were unable to administer the statewide assessments because it was not a viable option for them, due to the COVID pandemic, they were allowed to use select local assessments that met certain criteria approved by our State Board of Education for ELA and math. So as we're looking at 2020-21 results here, and comparing them to the prior years before the pandemic, I just want to caution us to think about and continue to think about the continued impact of the pandemic on our students, our families, and educators in the field during the 21-22 school year. That it is, that context is very important to remind us. With that, I will share whenever you see SBAC here is the Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium. We gather our members of the consortium, and our English language arts and math assessments come from there. This table displays the percent of students who met or exceeded standards by the all students group and by grade. So as seen here, statewide results do in all tested grades show 47% of students met or exceeded standards in ELA in 2022, which is a 4 percentage points decrease from 2019 for English language arts. And then in mathematics, there appears to be more learning lags with a slightly larger than a little bit, about 33% of students meeting or exceeding standards, which is a 7 percentage point decrease from 2019. And then we have the various grades display here as well. The lower grades again saw larger differentials from 2019 than in higher grades in ELA. And then in math, in grades 3 through 7, there was a percentage had a 7 in grade 3. Sorry, I feel like I'm jumping over myself. As you can see, we're in terms of grade 3, I'll just walk through this example, this particular table, then I'll move a little faster in the upcoming ones. But in grade 3, we have a 7 percentage point decrease in ELA and a 6 point in math. And then we have 4 through 6, each had about a 5 percentage point decrease in ELA and 6 to 7 percentage point decrease in math. And then in 7, 8, and 11 students, each had a 2 percentage point decrease in ELA. Math also showed a percentage point decrease ranging from 6 percentage points in grades 3, 5, and 7. And then grades 4 and 6 show a 7 percentage point decrease. And then 8th grade had an 8 percentage point decrease, and grade 11 students show a 5 percentage point decrease. With that, I will also share with you the English and math results of percentages of students meeting or exceeding standards by race and ethnicity. And the groups that we have are American Indian or Alaskan Native, Asian, Black or African American, Filipino, Hispanic or Latino, Native Hawaiian or Pacific Islander, white, and a group of 2 or more races. And the changes here are fairly consistent in terms of the decline or a decrease in the percentage of students meeting or exceeding standards by each of the racial or ethnic groups. And then we also have the data by gender and various program groups that are highlighted here. Female and male for the gender groups, and then for particular program groups, we have economically disadvantaged, English learner, students with disability, military, homeless, and foster youth. And these are the various categories that are required by state and federal laws to report by, and many other ones too, but these are the main requirements. And with that, the decrease in the from comparison of 2019 prior to the pandemic and the most recent year, the decrease in performance is provided so that we could see the differences among groups. Then I'd like to highlight the California alternate assessments. The CAAs, there are English language, are the alternate assessments for English language arts and math. And again, this is the students with the most significant cognitive disabilities. So the test has 3 levels. And with the level 3 is the highest one. Level 3 is designated as understanding of the standards. And we have again, similar groupings of all students. About 1% of our students take the alternate assessments. So let's say if we have over 3 million that take English language arts and math in grades 3 through 8 and 11, about 1% of that 30-some thousand students take the alternate assessments for English language arts and math. So with this small group, we have for all the students who take this particular test in 2019, 16% were meeting that level 3 of understanding the standards for the alternate assessments in English language arts. And in 22, there's a slight decline of 2 percentage points there to 14. And then also in math, there's also a 2 percentage point decrease from 10% in 2019 to 8 in 2022. And then the particular grades are also provided for reference. And then with that, I will move to the California Science Test. CAST stands for the California Science Test. And then we also have similar measures of percent of students who met or exceeded standards by the all student groups and the particular grades. In California, we test them at grade 5, 8, and once in high school. Usually when they have completed or are determined that that would be the last science test that they'll take in high school. So it could be any grade in grade 10, 11, or 12. And if they don't take a science test by grade 12, they are automatically assigned to take a high school, the science test at 12th grade. So there is a slight decrease from 2019 was the first operational year of this test in terms of development. And there were 30% of the students who met or exceeded standards at that time. And in 22 is about 29. So it's staying relatively stable with that initial first operational year. But the decline is pretty consistent across the particular grades that are assessed. In grade 5, there's a 1 percentage decrease, 1 percentage point decrease, and then 8th grade is also 2 percentage points there, and then it remains pretty consistent at 28 in high school. We do have the California Spanish Assessment, or CSA, here. We do have it's still in development. So the first operational year we had it was also in 2019. And the reporting is a little different in that we report score reporting ranges that the students are in. And many students who take this test are in a Spanish immersion program or taking higher level Spanish in the high school grades. Or there's or if they know enough Spanish, there's not a requirement that they have to be in a course to take this Spanish assessment. So over the, in terms of the change, there are slight decreases in terms of the score, average score reporting ranges, where these average scale scores land in, but overall, there's slight decreases from 2019 as well. But we have more students testing now on this optional test than we ever did in 2019. So we have about 47,000 students taking this particular test in 2022. And in 2019, I think we only had maybe 39,000 or so. Excuse me. Our summative LPAC, the percentage of students overall meeting a performance level 4 by grade is provided here for comparison purposes. So when the federal government suspended testing in the 2019-20 school year, we did postpone or move that administration to the fall of 2020 to help with reclassification purposes. However, we only tested 40% in that year, so it's not shown here, but we have 2019, which is the pre-pandemic year. And then in 2020, 21 here, we tested about 89% of English learners on the summative LPAC. So we provided the percentage meeting level 4 here for comparison purposes. And there was, in terms of flexibility in 2021, we did not have flexibility at all for summative LPAC. We wanted to, and we needed to, and also want to assess all English learners so that they could receive appropriate services. So we made our best attempt, even in the unknowns of the pandemic, to test 89% of our students. And then in 22, we tested a really high percentage, almost like upper 90%, probably 98% or something like that on the LPAC. And in overall, in terms of highlighting the performance, the overall performance level of 4 here is the level that is required for students to minimally meet or readiness for reclassification should they meet other criteria for reclassification from English learner to fluent English proficient. And then our latest test is the alternate LPAC, the summative alternate LPAC. And since we only have 1 year of that, we did the operational field test, which contributed to the results for the summative alternate LPAC that are reported here. And in the alternate LPAC, we have levels 1, 2, and 3, and they're defined as novice EL, intermediate EL, or fluent English proficient. So on this is our students who are English learners, as well as they are students with the most significant cognitive disabilities. And in terms of the percentage distribution, we have 30% in level 1, 41% in level 2, and then 29% who are considered fluent English proficient on this particular test, and they could qualify to be eligible for reclassification should they meet other criteria for reclassification. And then we have the initial LPAC overall. These are new students who come to our state and they have a language other than English. Within 30 calendar days, they are to be assessed with the initial LPAC. And this is the distribution in each level. There's also 3 levels there. We have novice EL, intermediate EL, and then the initial fluent English proficient. And initially, if they test in the level 3, they become initial fluent English proficient or IFEP, and they never become an EL. And then the rest of the students here who are in levels 1 and 2, they are designated as English learners, and they continue to participate in the summative LPAC until they qualify for reclassification. So I am providing the more information on our public release. The location for the public website is available. We do have summary reports by school, district, county, and state levels for all students and student groups. And then we also have comparisons or change over time, some performance trends by student groups, and research files should researchers want to use it for various, they could recreate reports and do all sorts of data visualization with the research files here. We also have an interpretation guide that is available here at this particular link that I will share with you. But before that, Mike, I think we might have time for me to just go right into the public website and show them some of the visuals.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's do that. So I will just go ahead and share this. So once I go into that link, which is up here, we have all the tests that I shared with you. And I will go into the English language arts, and literacy and mathematics, those smarter balanced summative assessments. When you click on here, you can see that each of the years is
Just
here.
One second, Dr. Vang, I think we can only see the slide right now. I'm not sure if the data itself is on a different monitor.
Yeah, let me reshare. Okay, I will. I think I have to stop that and then reshare my screen. I'm not sure if I, there. Let me just go ahead and do that. Can you see now?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. Too much open, but I wanted to say, once you click onto that, here, let me just, the link that I provided there, you will get onto this landing page called Test Results for California Assessments. And then you would select the English language arts and math. And in here, you could see the different years that are available. We have all the way to from 2014-15 to the most recent year, 21-22. And you'll see here that that was the suspension year, the 2019-20. So there is no data available. But let's say I just wanted to look at, so remember how I had the table that there's 47% students meeting or exceeding ELA or English language arts, and then 33 for math. So the same data are displayed here. And let's say if I wanted to more details about the test results. So I go into this test results link, and there's these little bar charts to help you hover over the percentages in each of the performance level, or you look at the data table here that provides you all that information on a table. So we have the number of students enrolled, number of students tested, and then the number of students with scores. And some students may test it, but they didn't complete enough to get a score. That's why there's these three different types of numbers here for you. And then the mean or average scale score for this particular grade group is provided. And then this is where we see the levels 1, 2, 3, and 4. And when we're talking about the percent meeting or exceeding standards, it's levels 3 and 4. And we just add that together. This is where you get your 47% here for all students in all grades. And then each of the grades here on their own, right? And then when there are groups of students that are 30 or above, we create the claim scores or the areas, like in reading. For language arts that we're looking at, we have reading. How do those students perform as a group by grade? And then we have writing and listening and speaking, and then research or inquiry. These are the claims or areas that are assessed under the overarching English language arts or literacy category. So I'm gonna kind of stop that and go back into my presentation. I hope it's still right here. I'm not really sure how to toggle, so I'll have to do it this way. So
Not sure if it's just me or did we all lose Dr. Vang?
I think we lost her, yes.
Okay. Well, if her internet becomes more stable and comes back, we can return to, I think she just had a couple of slides left on resources that are available. We can proceed to any kinds of questions, although I won't be able to answer them.
She's back.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I think I had a connectivity issue here. So I'm pretty much on the last slide. Okay, you can hear me now better, right? So I'm pretty much on the last slide here, and just sharing the quick reference guides for you. And then we could go to the Q&A section. And I'm done with my presentation. I'll turn it back to, I'm not sure if I turn back to you, Mike, or the chair.
We can go back to Chair Costa Hernandez.
Yeah, I'll turn it back to you, Chair Costa Hernandez.
Thank you. Thank you for that presentation. Are there any questions for Dr. Vang? I recognize Commissioner Guerra.
Thank you for such a wonderful presentation. I know that at the last board meeting, there was a lot of conversation around long-term English learners and assessments and bringing those out. Can you share a little bit about that with us?
I believe, was that during the assessment presentation? Or was that in terms of the long-term English learners and calculating long-term English learners as a group? Are you referring to that?
Maybe Board Member Glover or Board Member Lewis might have some more information.
I believe the conversation regarding long-term English learners and looking at how to ensure that the information is reflected in a way that LEAs can take action on actually may have not been during Dr. Vang's presentation. It might have been during the accountability conversation that took place at the last item, I believe.
Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you.
I could certainly look more into it and talk with our accountability person too, if that is a need. And then we could circle back with Dr. Torres and provide you an update.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Questions? Yes. Commissioner Shakardeo.
Hi, Dr. Vang. Thank you for that wonderful presentation. I was wondering how, I believe it was the CSA, the Spanish assessment, how is that different from the seal of biliteracy for Spanish and other languages?
Oh, for the meeting the criteria or one of the criteria for the seal of biliteracy, because the California Spanish assessment in its current state does not assess speaking and writing, right? It didn't meet the requirements for a full assessment. So students could still meet that criteria for the seal of biliteracy through taking AP Spanish or other, I can't remember all the various ways. But it is our hope that in the current contract, when we can expand the speaking, I think that was part of my board presentation last time, is we're expanding the writing component of the Spanish assessment as well as the speaking part. And once we have those in place, it could be used, the results could be used to meet that one of the criteria for meeting the seal of biliteracy. So that's what's in the works. But in its current state, it doesn't meet that. That's why we're trying to expand it to meet that criteria as well. And it's free, right? We want to offer it free for the students to take it. Some of the other tests like AP and other IB and others that are available, students may have to pay money in addition to, in order to take the test.
Thank you. Commissioner Jarvis.
My question stems around the forms being modified after 2019, and if it's fair to compare the 2019 results with the 2021 or 22 results, given that the forms have a different number of items.
So just to clarify, when we change the forms, they are still comparable, and we change or we reduce the computer adapted portion of the test. But it still has, in terms of the content coverage, it still has the breadth, and in terms of the depth of knowledge of each of the components are very comparable. In terms of reliability, it's also very reliable. I think that what we did not reduce the performance task at all. It was held intact. Some of the cautionary language about not comparing is that we need to remember the context of and the impact of the pandemic, right? Those overall scores you can compare over time, but the caveats of 2020 being a suspended year, in 21 many did not participate because of the pandemic, and it was not viable for them to administer all these assessments. And it also, we provided a remote option to administer the test, and many had, connectivity concerns that they were not able to. So if we highlight the impact of the pandemic, know that prior to the pandemic, it was a different set of, learning, a different way of learning. And then even now, families are still, being so impacted by the pandemic. And even last year in 2021, we still have to offer many distance learning programs throughout the state because some families did not feel they could come back in person, some students. And then we have that across the board. And even now, there are still, even at the beginning of this year, students are still being impacted. We're still being impacted. Students are still out of school due to, catching the virus. So I'd say it's not so much the test, but the context of the pandemic impacting is what we need to remind people and highlight, that it is not fair to compare because the learning environments were very different.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I don't know if I should raise my hand. I just realized at the end of the meeting when I want to talk. Just a couple of observations. Thank you, Dr. Van, for that presentation. Very sobering to see in numbers what we knew what's happening, but to get that type of data that confirms our fears, it's sobering, but it's also an opportunity, I see, right? Once we know, then now we know what we need to do. Just a couple of observations. I've been attending the meetings about the updated dashboard. And I know that my understanding is that the dashboard will not include the change piece. It will be status, and the recognition that this is what we see from this year should be considered a baseline to move forward. And so in that sense, I think that will be helpful in appeasing this sense of panic and urgency. I think the panic is not helpful. The urgency is, right? Understanding that this is the reality now. And now that we know for sure, and it's confirmed what we suspected, what are we going to do to accelerate learning for all students? My other observation is that when we looked, though it is very true that the pandemic had a horrible effect on achievement, that the numbers pre-pandemic were numbers that were require some work on our end too, right? We didn't go from having high percentages across different groups of students to really low percentage of kids. That we knew that we had a heavy lift before the pandemic. And so that, that I guess is a recognition that what happened in the last year exacerbated some of the inequities that we were already seeing in how students were performing. So those are my observations, and I appreciate seeing this data. Thank you so much for bringing that to us. Do I have any other comments or questions for Dr. Vang? Well, thank you again. And I neglected to, when we flipped the items on the agenda, to note for the public that the public comment was open for this agenda, but I saw that we put it on the screen. So, Denise, is there any public comment on this item?
There is not.
Okay, so moving right along, now we are coming to item 1M, I believe is the Commissioner Acknowledgments. Public comment for this agenda item is now open. Please follow the instructions on the screen if you would like to speak. Today is Commissioners Pantay, Rustin, Williamson's last meeting along with myself, as our terms on the IQC are ending. I would like to open the floor for my fellow commissioners, Pantay, Rustin, Williamson, and any other, if they want to say any comments, and then I'll add before I pass it on, I think it's to Executive Director Torres, this part as well. Is it? No? Okay, so it's open for my colleagues if we want to say anything. Yes, I see you, Commissioner Pantay.
Yes, a big, huge thank you. First off, I think it was a pleasure. It's been a pleasure serving as IQC Commissioner the past 4 years. And I think the journey was rewarding. It was amazing. The 4 years that we started, I remember former IQC Director, Dr. Stephanie Gregson. And I remember being placed right on the spot on our very first meeting and asking myself, what am I doing here? Well, I learned, I grew, I adapted, I survived. And, I want to encourage those of you who are new and you just joined IQC, that you'll gain so much knowledge and understanding of what IQC does and the important work that is done by the State Board of Education and the Department of Ed on curriculum, frameworks, and instruction, and so much more. And I want to share that, my family, in particular, my parents who are refugees to this country, it is because of public schools and the education system provided by the state of California that I am humble and grateful. And I wish to give that back to the schools in the community that has helped me. And that was my first initial reason why I wanted to join IQC. So during my early years, I know school has always been a safe haven for me. It was a place for me to learn, to be myself. And I just want you to remember that you are an integral part of that. You've made a huge impact on the lives of students, because I'll never forget my teachers, the educators, the administrators and counselors, and so many different staff. I want to personally thank Dr. Gregson, Stephanie, Shanine Coates, Dr. Torres for your support and your leadership. And I want to especially thank the CDE staff, the IQC commissioners. You are the reason why I made it through the 4 years. You all have had an impact on me, both big and small. And you are part of the reason why I've decided to go back to school. So I'd like to share that I'm in the process of completing my administrative credential. I'm halfway there. I am also in a dual program with my master's program through the educational leadership, through SCOE's Sacramento County Office of Education, where some of you know Shanine Coates is there. So I get to say hi to her. She was the former director. And it's because of the camaraderie and the relationship that I've built with you that I'm pursuing other areas and trying on a different hat and seeking new adventures in education. And you are my heroes. You are in my book. You are part of that chapter. And I'm awed by the various leadership roles that you all have and hold, and where you come from, and your unique, distinctive experience have encouraged me to do the same. So it is with bittersweet emotion that this is my last meeting, and I hope someday our paths will cross again, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Pantay. Commissioner Williamson, and then I see also Commissioner Rustin.
Thank you. So I could just come back and say, okay, ditto. Everything that was just stated is very much what I also have felt, just the idea of learning. I'll be honest, again, like so many, not knowing what we were getting into, but I have learned so much about just the process of how the frameworks are working. And, you know, it also expanded me beyond just the history content that I'm familiar with, because as being a history teacher, knowing that how math is working and how I can work with my colleagues there to get them to really understand why frameworks change and the inclusivity that we are hoping to bring within these different pieces. And I just want to thank you for that, the opportunity to do that. I hope that I can continue to serve in some way. I have to say the policymaking side of things are kind of interesting. So who knows where that will lead us. And I hope that I will somehow stay in touch with you all. And I wish the best for all the new ones coming on. You're going to love it. There are times where your eyes will hurt because of all the reading, but you know what? It is so worth it. And we just wish you the best. And thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Take care, guys.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Williamson. Commissioner Rustin.
Thank you. Ditto and ditto to both of you for sure. And I definitely want to thank Denise. I think Denise took over for Tracy during my first year on the commission and really helped me understand the logistical matters, especially when I'll share the commission. So shout out to Denise Figueroa. Thank you very much for your help, and everybody else at Seaford in general, just all really great people. Kyle, Letty, Ken, everybody that we work with during these last 4 years. I'm not even sure who all necessarily is even still there right now, but thank you so much for guiding us through some very difficult meetings and difficult processes. And one particular meeting that really stands out to me in my memory of our work here was when we approved the health education framework. And those of you who were there for that day, you remember the metal detectors, the extra security that was brought in, bus loads of people who showed up to encourage us to not accept those frameworks. And I remember person after person during the public comment lying out the door, and they were saying some very strong things about their feelings about that health education framework. And I remember we were told many, many times in those comments that it would be better for us to have millstones tied around our necks and thrown into the sea to drown than to approve that framework. That was not an easy day. And we did the right thing that day. I think it was a unanimous vote to approve that particular framework and affirm California's commitment to updated health framework, health education that is inclusive of folks across the gender spectrum and inclusive of students, no matter their gender expression or identities. And that's the IQC that I remember. That's the CDE that I remember, making that tough decision and standing firm against the backlash to do what was right for California students. And after that, the ethnic studies process, things got a little dicey then, to say the least. And there were a few delays, but overall, despite the backlash, especially once critical race theory entered the chat, despite that backlash and the headlines and all that stuff, we still managed to get that past the finish line and affirm California's commitment to expanding ethnic studies. And now we have another backlash, and this time it's mathematics. And there's folks who say that the math frameworks have put equity over rigor or have brought wokeness into math, whatever that's supposed to mean. And I'll be honest, I'm a little concerned that this time the backlash might be winning. We spent this last year, my fourth year on the commission, my last year on the commission, so many meetings have been canceled. We canceled, I think it was 4 meetings canceled. So I really feel like I didn't get a fourth year here. And I just hope that when that framework shows back up next year in its final draft form, I hope that folks behind the scenes aren't acquiescing to that backlash, because clearly our most marginalized students especially deserve mathematics education that helps encourage and uplift them and bring them into math rather than have them feel that math isn't something that they can do. So to all these commissioners, all you commissioners, I hope next year you do the right thing and stand for our most marginalized students, especially whenever that math framework comes around, because you are here to share your brilliance and experience as an educator. All of you are such phenomenal educators in your experience. Like if we just laid out all the different things that all of you have done and accomplished in your work, I mean, it would just be a massive sight. So continue to share your voice and to have a voice next year when that framework comes up. I hope you have the opportunity to lend your input to mathematics when that does come up. I've truly enjoyed my 4 years here on the commission. I wish you all the best for sure. I hope none of you are strangers. I'm down here in Pasadena. Don't be a stranger. Reach out. Yeah, I'll continue to follow your work next year, I guess, watching on YouTube or wherever this is telecast.
Thank you, Commissioner Rustin. I knew that if I placed myself at the last of the four, that all I would have to say is I echo their comments, right? That's an easy one. I thoroughly echo what my fellow commissioners have shared. And I shared also in the sentiment about how proud, what an honor this serving in this commission has been for me. And the bragging rights that we get when you say, no, I'm on the IQC. And people say, wow. Yep, it's wow. And I understand the wow, because I didn't know the extent, the depth of the work until I was part of the commission. And I was so impressed, not surprised, but so impressed with the work and the contributions of everyone in the commission. And I am also echoing the gratitude towards the CIFR staff, Denise, Mike, Shanine Coates before. You have been so supportive and so inspiring and so flexible in adapting to everything that came our way so that we could continue to do the work that we were tasked to do. And so I'm very grateful. I'm very proud. I'm proud of everyone. I wish everyone the best going forward. One last thing that I wanted to say as I was thinking about today is to my fellow commissioners, Rustin, Pantai, and Williamson. I'm so grateful that I met you, and to know that you're teachers just fills my heart with joy, because I know that our kids are in such good hands with teachers like you. And I learned so much from you in the process. I've always thought that I wanted to grow up to be like Dr. Rustin, that I pay attention to the level of detail and the thoughtfulness that Pam put into reading public comments and processing those every time we met to incorporate what we were learning from the public. And I take from David this idea about families and recognizing, using the language as inclusive when we are referring to families and people who are taking care of our students. So with that, I will pass it on to you, Dr. Torres, and to my other commissioners for some words. And if not, I think we're moving on to the next item.
Before I speak, are there any other commissioners who'd like to take the floor?
I see Commissioner Andre and Commissioner Young.
Okay. Oh, I got to put down my hand. Huh? I took a moment to jot something down because I've learned every time we say goodbye to a commission, I get kind of shaky voiced, and I'm a big crybaby. So I just wanted to say it's with much gratitude that I remember and appreciate how welcoming you all have been to me. It's been, here I go. I never realized that it was your guys' first meeting when I met you. You're also incredibly polished, and you really made me feel welcome. I'm so in awe about how I'm so in awe, and it's been such an honor to sit on this commission with you, to get to experience your passion and just the great expertise that you've always brought to these meetings and you always bring to the table. I've learned so much, and I'm going to miss you. And like David said, I'm putting it into the universe that we cross paths again, because I can't wait to see you in person and pick your brains. I just loved sitting and talking with you the 2 times that we've met. You've inspired me to, do more. So thank you for that, and good luck.
Thank you. Commissioner Young, and then Commissioner Jarvis.
Thank you. I just want to take this moment and say thank you all so much for your service. I feel that I've gotten to learn just so much, just watching you all work, listening to your level of discussion. It's really helped me understand the gravity and the responsibility of being on this commission, and just the amount of time and dedication and research that you all do to be able to come to meetings and discuss things as beautifully as you've done in the time that I've been on the commission, be able to witness. I really appreciate all of the love, the heart, and the intelligence and intellect that you bring to this work every day. So thank you very much, and good luck to everyone. And whatever you do, I'm sure that you will absolutely continue to be change makers in your different realms that you move into.
Thank you. Commissioner Jarvis?
Yeah, so again, echo the sentiments of all the fellow commissioners, but I just want to tell you that I have so much respect for your passion, especially through the last couple of years that we experienced together. Your focus remained steadfast to the work and service for California public school students. And I was very fortunate enough to have Dr. Rustin as my mentor, and those are my bragging rights. Your care and concern to address, the historic inequities with students is just amazing, and you just have my respect forever into eternity. Mr. Pantai, Commissioner Pantai, your commitment to equity, diversity, and inclusion just shine through all of your input and conversation, and I thank you for that. What a wonderful person to emulate as I, serve my last year on the commission. Commissioner Williamson, your attention to detail in math and public comments and history is inspiring to all. And what can I say about our chairperson, Commissioner Costa Hernandez? Your commitment to cultural and linguistic diversity just shined throughout. And just want to say that you guys are amazing. I wish you the very, very best. And I will certainly miss you on the commission. My only regret is that we didn't get a chance to interact in person more, but there you are. Thank you. Continue to make a difference.
Thank you so much.
All right, if there aren't any other comments from the commissioners, I don't know what else to say.
I'm sorry, Dr. Torres, but I saw that board member Cynthia Glover Woods has her hand up.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Chair Costa Hernandez, but I can go after Executive Director Torres.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Member Glover Woods. Like I was saying, I don't know what to say other than what's already been said. I'm humbled to have known all of you who are our outgoing commissioners. I also want to take a moment to recognize the work of Commissioner Popovich, who is also no longer a commissioner and part of this group. It's just been an incredible opportunity. I know that it's been just over a year since I have taken over as the executive director, and I've learned so much during that time, and just in awe at the work and the passion and initiative and all of the different things that make you true leaders in education. So thank you all for that. I also want to share that you're all going to be receiving a certificate of recognition. I printed out a a paper copy. You'll get a much nicer one in the mail here in the coming days. But the certificate does read that this certificate of recognition is presented to you and names you by name in honor of outstanding service as a valued member of the Instructional Quality Commission from 2019 through 2022. Your valuable contributions of time and expertise have been instrumental in furthering our mission to provide all children with quality and innovative educational materials so they can develop and achieve their full potential. I extend my sincere appreciation for the time and effort you have contributed to such a worthwhile endeavor, and this is signed by State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tony Thurmond. And you'll be receiving those in the mail pretty soon. That's all I have.
Thank you. Board Member Glover Woods, I'm sorry.
No, that's quite all right. As I was thinking about today and today's meeting and just the opportunity I've had to get to know some of you via Zoom and that one little spring meeting we had where we got to see each other in person. I don't know, I just, my heart was full, and I will tell you why. Years ago, each and every one of you made a decision to serve children in public education. You made a decision to teach, go into the classroom and touch the lives of children. And that in and of itself is a very noble way to serve our world, to be very honest. You didn't just stop there though. You took the leap and put in an application and went through an interview process and were selected as commissioners for the Instructional Quality Commission. And I think Co-Chair Rustin just really laid it out in such a way that this was not work for the faint of heart. Mm-hmm. It was not just a name on a web page, a hand raised or whatever. There were some very serious, impactful decisions that needed to be made. And it's not lost on me the amount of time that you have dedicated to this commission and to the students of California through your work on the IQC. You still had your day job. You taught, you touched the children that you worked with, the adults and educators that you worked with, the time that you had to sacrifice from your own families and those that you love to be prepared for these conversations. And then to be very honest, to take on the varied opinions around the work that needed to be done. And it's sometimes to be even vilified for that work. I can only imagine the emotion and the feelings that you had as you left those particular meetings. That is service above and beyond what anyone could ever ask for those in the field of public education. And personally, I want to say thank you, of course, on behalf of the board, but just know that the time, the sacrifice, the tears in some instances, the anger maybe in some instances, that through it all, your legacy is forever going to be stamped on the children in California. There's no way in the world, you may be leaving the IQC because your term is up, but you will forever be embedded in the fabric of public education. And for that, I thank you for your service and wish you all the best in your future endeavors.
Okay, I don't know if I can continue. Got emotional there. Thank you so much for the kind words, for your kind words, board member Glover Woods, and for everyone's kind words. And so Denise, I'm going to ask you one last time. Is there any public comment on this item?
There is no public comment.
So with no public comment, it is a bittersweet moment for me where I then conclude the agenda for the day and I adjourn this meeting. Thank you, everybody, and the best of luck to all of you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.